Well, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, so today I thought I'd share a bonus with you. This video is going to be a compilation of my 3 all-time favorite pumpkin breakfasts. These breakfasts would be perfect for your Thanksgiving morning, or really any morning because they're just that yummy. Pumpkin spice lattes are definitely the taste of the season. However, I'm going to go out on a limb and just throw this out there. I absolutely despise pumpkin spice lattes. Yes, you heard that right. I'm a pretty simple girl when it comes to coffee, and I just like my coffee black. However, pumpkin spice everything baked goods is totally up my alley, and I absolutely love it. Today's cinnamon roll pumpkin spice crumb buns are going to be everything you absolutely love in a pumpkin spice latte, only in a cinnamon roll form. These pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls are full of all the warm fall flavors you love from a pumpkin spice latte, and then topped with a cinnamon spice streusel and a cream cheese drizzle. The first thing we're going to do is get the cinnamon roll dough going, and I'm going to start with the dry ingredients first. I'm going to use 3 cups of just plain old organic all-purpose flour. 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to mix my other ingredients together in a small pot, and we are going to get that warmed up on the stove top. So for our wet ingredients, we need 3/4 of a cup of milk. Now we need 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree. You could use pumpkin puree that you cook down yourself from your own pumpkin, or you can use a can that you get from the store. For today, I'm just going to use some canned pumpkin puree. Just make sure that you get 100% pure pumpkin and not the pumpkin pie mix, because that's full of sugar and other things that you don't want in your cinnamon buns. You'll get a completely different result. All right, we're going to put that right into our pot. Now we need 2 tablespoons of honey for just a touch of sweetness. And then the last thing we need in this mixture is just 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so now we're going to put this over here on the stove. You need to watch this really well because you don't want the milk to boil or even simmer. You just want to scald the mixture slightly and have it come up to a little bit warmer than lukewarm, and that's going to help activate the yeast later. And we also want the butter to melt and the honey to get all incorporated in here. But like I said, just watch it really carefully. So while our milk mixture is heating up on the stove, I'm also going to turn on the oven at a very low temperature. Somewhere between 175 and 200 will be just right. We're going to let that warm up and then actually turn the oven right back off. We just want our oven to be warm so that we can speed up the rising process on our cinnamon rolls. This is looking pretty good. I can see the steam coming off of it. I can feel that it's gotten nice and warm. The butter's pretty much melted and the honey's dissolved in. So we're going to take this off the stove. If for some reason you've warmed your milk up too much, don't worry. Just let it cool down a little bit before you pour it over your dry mixture. You just don't want to kill that yeast. So it needs to be just above lukewarm and no hotter. Let's get this going in our mixer with a dough hook, and we'll add in our very last ingredient, which is 2 eggs. So the dough is done mixing, and I'm just going to cover it up and let it rest on the counter for 5 to 10 minutes. And while that's happening, we're going to mix together the pumpkin spice filling. We're going to use the rest of the can of our pumpkin puree for the filling. It's about 1.25 cups. Now I'm going to put in about 5 tablespoons of softened butter. Next up is coconut sugar. We're going to do 1 cup. Now we're going to add in the spices. I don't keep pumpkin spice on hand, but we're going to add in all of the spices that make up pumpkin spice. So the first one would be cinnamon, and we're going to do 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. If you don't like it as spicy, you can add less of the spices if you prefer. 2 teaspoons of ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon each of cloves and nutmeg. For the nutmeg, I'm gonna use my rasp and do fresh nutmeg. I'm gonna take this over to my mixer and just make sure this is all blended well together. All right, let's roll out these buns. I'm just gonna make sure that it's loose underneath and we're not gonna get stuck. Now we're just gonna spread our pumpkin mixture. It doesn't look the greatest, but trust me, the filling is absolutely delicious. Once this filling heats up in the oven, it's all going to meld together and become a pumpkin-y, sugary, buttery, caramelized, spicy deliciousness that is so yummy. So now we're gonna roll our cinnamon buns up, and I like to go long ways. I wanna roll on the long edge, not the skinny edge. That's gonna make more buns for us. And I like to start at the edge away from me and roll towards me, but you could use any method that works for you. Parchment paper comes in handy when you're rolling it up to help you get a tighter roll. If you don't have parchment paper, that's fine. You can just roll it by hand. But I do like to always make my cinnamon buns on a parchment paper because it just makes it easier. You can do this. All right, I'm gonna prep my 9x13 pan. If you don't have a pan this big, that's fine. You could use 2 smaller pans. This one just works well for me. So the best way to cut cinnamon buns is with a piece of dental floss, actually. You can also use a knife, a serrated knife, whatever you have that works. We're gonna do it with dental floss today. So you just wanna take your dental floss and put it under your roll here, and then you're gonna pick it up and twist, and you get a nice clean cut. Look at how pretty that is. Ready? So I usually get about 18 rolls from this recipe if I cut them about an inch thick. If you cut them a little bit bigger or smaller, you might have slightly different. It's okay, you could just nestle them all in and make it work. We're gonna get these in the oven and allow them to rise for about 20 minutes. And make sure you've turned your oven off. You don't want it to still be on, it just needs to be a warm oven. I'm gonna get this cleaned up and then we're gonna start on our streusel topping. So we're just gonna reuse the bowl we made the pumpkin puree in, and that's absolutely fine. It's not gonna hurt the streusel topping. So into this bowl, I'm gonna add 1 cup of flour, 3/4 of a cup of coconut sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 stick of melted butter, a splash of vanilla. At this point, you could also add in about 1/4 of a cup of chopped seeds and nuts, or put them in your blender, blend them up, it doesn't matter. I like to use pumpkin seeds and pecans. Unfortunately, my kids don't like them. So for this round of buns, they've asked me to please not put in the seeds and nuts. So I'm not gonna do it, but really, it just takes it over the top and makes it that much better. Plus, anytime I could sneak in seeds and nuts, I like to do that because they are really healthy for you. So, pumpkin seeds, pecans, absolutely delicious if you want to put them in now. I'm going to take this over to our mixer and get it mixed up until it resembles a coarse crumb. So these are looking absolutely gorgeous, and it's time to put the streusel topping on. Now, you don't need the streusel topping, of course, but it really does make them that much more delicious, and it's kind of a special treat. I'm just gonna go ahead and crumble the topping all over these buns. We need to turn the oven on now and bring it up to temperature. We're gonna bake these at 375 degrees. All right, into the oven these go. The buns are out of the oven and they look absolutely gorgeous. So now we are gonna do the latte part of this pumpkin spice latte cinnamon crumb bun. And that's a mouthful. And we're gonna do that over here in our mixer. I'm gonna start with a half a block of softened cream cheese. And we're gonna mix this first before we add anything else in. I want this nice and creamed. I'm gonna put in some heavy cream. And about 1/4 cup of maple syrup. I'm gonna add in some strongly brewed coffee. If you have espresso, that would be even better. This is about the consistency you're looking for. You want it to be able to drizzle on the top of your cinnamon buns. You could make it a little bit more runny if you wanted to add a little more maple syrup for sweetness, or even more coffee if you'd like a stronger coffee flavor. But for me, I think this is perfect. All right, we're just gonna drizzle this on and try and make it look pretty. We're gonna go ahead and give this pumpkin crumb bun a try and see how it is. Look at how good that looks. You can see the layer of pumpkin, the crumbs. It all looks delicious. All right. It's probably way too big of a bite, but I'm doing it anyway. The flavor in there, it is spot on pumpkin spice latte. The pumpkin filling in the middle is sweet and spicy and full of that ginger cinnamon flavor that pumpkin spice is known for. But then that drizzle on top is just like the perfect hint of coffee and sweetness. It's really good. These are going to be a fall staple for sure. I know pumpkin spice lattes are a little bit controversial, so let me know down in the comments below if you're a pumpkin spice person or not. In the meantime, I'm gonna go finish this because this is absolutely delicious. It's October and I'm doubling down on my pumpkin recipes. Today we're gonna be making pumpkin spice scones with a delicious maple cream cheese glaze that's gonna be so good, you're not gonna need to go to Starbucks for your pumpkin scone fix. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is get all of our dry ingredients in a bowl. So we're gonna start with our flour, 2½ cups of flour. Next, I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of coconut sugar, a tablespoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, and about 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg and cloves. Now we're gonna put in 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And a half a teaspoon of salt. Now we're just gonna stir this up. All right, and then we're gonna put this off to the side, and I am going to grate my butter now. I'm gonna do this just like I would a pie crust. You wanna have a nice cold stick of butter, and we're just gonna grate it up on our box grater. And you could also do this in your food processor if you like. Now I'm gonna grab a fork, and I'm just gonna use that to mix my butter in with my dry ingredients. I don't wanna overmix it, I just wanna get it incorporated and have it kind of get crumbly. You could also do this with a pastry cutter if you have one. And that's pretty good. All right, now we're gonna mix in our wet ingredients. For the wet ingredients, I have 3/4 of a cup of pumpkin puree, a half a cup of milk, and a good splash of vanilla. Now I'm just gonna mix this together until it's well incorporated. This dough smells so good. Those spices are just so reminiscent of fall, and it's gonna be so yummy. All right, now we're gonna knead it just a little bit and roll it out. I'm gonna flour my board. So we wanna make sure that the dough comes together without being overworked. So I'm just gonna knead it just a few times, make sure that it's all mixed up well, and then that's it. And we're just gonna pat it out into, an 8 or 9 inch circle. All right, now we're gonna cut this in half. And then we're gonna go in half again. And then I'm gonna cut each of those quarters into thirds. Perfect. It's kind of like making biscuits. You want to be able to have like little pieces of butter in here still. You want your scones to be nice and light and flaky. So make sure you didn't overwork it. But other than that, it's super easy. And we're just gonna move it right over here onto my cast iron pan. If you don't have a cast iron pan, just bake it on any baking sheet. That's perfectly fine. So we're just gonna make sure there's a little bit of space between each one so that they bake evenly and they bake all around the edges. All right, that's it. We're gonna put them in a 425-degree oven for about 15 minutes. Now we're gonna make the cream cheese glaze for our scones. I'm gonna start with 1/4 cup of cream cheese. And this really doesn't have to be that exacting. It's just a glaze. So if you don't have all the right amounts of ingredients, you can still make it work. I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of light cream. And 1/4 cup of pure maple syrup. Now I'm just gonna use my immersion blender to blend it all up. Just gonna give it a try and see how it is. If you like it a little bit sweeter, you could always do less heavy cream and more maple syrup. That's pretty good. All right, so our scones are out of the oven, and I'm just gonna take them from our cast iron pan over here and put them on our serving platter. Now, I like to glaze them generously, but you do what you want. I think they're better that way. All right, so now for just a little something extra, I'm gonna top it with a little bit of freshly grated nutmeg. These pumpkin scones smell delicious and I cannot wait to give them a try. I'm not gonna bother with getting out a plate. We're just gonna eat it right off of here. That's a huge bite. I think I'm gonna reconsider that. Let's go for a littler, more dainty bite. Those pumpkin spices are so yummy in there. And that little bit of nutmeg on the top just makes it. These are absolutely delicious. I love that they're not overly sweet, and it's a nice refined sugar-free treat that you don't have to feel too guilty about indulging in. Much better for you than the Starbucks version, and a really nice treat to have with some coffee on a nice, crisp autumn afternoon. I'm loving them. Making from scratch Danish at home might seem unachievable or too difficult, but today we're going to be making pumpkin cheesecake Danish, and we're going to be doing it all from scratch, refined sugar-free, and guess what? It's not as difficult as you may think. So the first thing we need to do when making a Danish dough is prep the butter packet for lamination. Now that sounds fancy and difficult, but it's really not. Let me show you how to do it. We're going to take 2 sticks of butter, and I'm just going to unwrap them. They're still really cold, and that's going to make it a little bit easier for us to cut them. And I'm going to cut each of these sticks into quarters lengthwise. So this is how that's going to look. It doesn't have to be exact. Now we're going to take a sheet of parchment paper. I'm going to lay it out here on my board. And we're going to take 1 stick of butter and place it in the parchment paper, the 4 pieces. Lay them like this. Now we're going to fold the parchment up over the butter, so we encase it in the parchment. And I'm just going to roll the butter out to make a square. I forgot a step. We needed to sprinkle the parchment with a little bit of flour. That helps it come off easier in the end. You don't have to do that, but it does help out. So what I'm gonna do is sprinkle this side of the butter with a little bit of flour and then flip it, and then we'll sprinkle the other side with a little bit more flour. Now I'm gonna cheat a little bit and I'm gonna just clean this up so that it makes a little bit more of a perfect rectangle. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of close. We can use our knife and just clean it up a little bit. Put this over here, over here. And if you're a pastry chef, you're probably cringing. That's okay. We're doing this as a home chef. In our homes, we want it to be easy. There we go. All right. I'm gonna sprinkle it with a little bit more flour. Just flatten this out, and I'll show you what to do after that. All right, that's perfect. Now I'm gonna fold up the edges of the parchment and then we'll do our other stick of butter. You want these to be relatively the same size. They don't have to be perfect, just similar. So I'm gonna match these up and see how close we're getting. It's pretty close. I'm just gonna roll it a little bit bigger. All right, we have 2 packets of butter now that are roughly the same size. So we're gonna go put those in the refrigerator and let them chill while we work on our dough. Now we're gonna work on the dough. First, I'm gonna mix together all of the dry ingredients in a bowl. That's going to be flour, yeast, and salt. I'm just gonna give this a quick mix with a fork. Now I'm gonna cut in 2 tablespoons of cold butter. Now I'm just gonna use my hands to work that in until it's in about like pea-sized pieces. We're gonna mix in our wet ingredients. We're gonna start with our milk, our honey, then our warm water, and then we're gonna add in our egg. I'm gonna give this a quick mix with my fork just to incorporate everything, and then we'll bring it over to our mixer and mix it with our dough hook for about 5 to 7 minutes. That looks good. We're gonna bring this over to the stand mixer. All right, so our dough is done mixing. It looks lovely. So we are going to lightly flour our surface and start rolling it out. Okay, now that we have our dough rolled out, we're gonna get our butter back out of the refrigerator and we're gonna start the lamination process. This is what makes it have all those nice flaky layers of dough once you bake the pastry. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. It's super easy. We're gonna start with our first rectangle of butter. We're just gonna attempt to get this butter off all in one piece. You want to try to get the butter off all in one sheet, but if it doesn't all come off together, that's okay. If it breaks apart a little bit, we'll just piece it back together and it's going to be totally fine. Nobody's going to be any the wiser. All right, now that we have our first butter rectangle here in the middle, we're just going to fold one end right up over it like this, and that's going to start the lamination process. Now we're gonna take the second sheet of butter and we're just gonna repeat this all over again. Butter gave me a lot of grief, but that's okay. We pieced it back together and it's good to go. Now we're gonna fold the other side of our dough over again like this. Make sure that we're covering up all of that good butter. And we're just going to pinch all the edges closed so the butter doesn't come back out. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to sprinkle it with a little bit more flour so it doesn't stick. And let's roll this out again. All right, now now we are gonna tri-fold this like you'd fold a piece of paper to put in an envelope. So we're just gonna do this. We're gonna do this. And we are going to roll it out again. This is gonna make all those layers and layers and layers in your dough. I'm actually gonna take it off of this marble slab. It's getting a little bit too big for it. All right, we're gonna tri-fold it one last time. All right. I'm a little out of breath from that. That was a workout. Okay, we are gonna fold it up again. I'm sorry, I lied. We're gonna try fold it one last time just to put it away in the refrigerator. And we are gonna chill this for at least an hour, better even if it's overnight. So now we're going to do the cheese part of our Danish, and for that we're going to start by whipping a softened block of cream cheese in our KitchenAid. Now we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of maple syrup and blend it up. A splash of vanilla. Blend it up again. And a 1/4 cup of tapioca starch. And blend it up again. I'm just going to scrape this out into a bowl so I can use this mixing bowl to mix up my pumpkin mixture. We're going to put a 1/4 cup of cream cheese back into this bowl. Again, softened. And I'm going to whip this up. All right, we're going to add in 1 cup of pureed pumpkin. A 1/2 cup of coconut sugar. A teaspoon of cinnamon. And a teaspoon of ginger. And we're going to mix it up again. And lastly, 1 egg. Now that we have everything prepped and ready, it's time to assemble our pastries. So I'm going to flour my work surface again, and we're going to get this dough rolled out. Remember, it has been chilling for over an hour. You want to make sure you give it a good amount of time to chill in the refrigerator. All right, this looks beautiful. I'm just gonna get some of this extra flour off, and we're gonna cut this into rectangles. You could be precise and measure this if you had a ruler or something like that. I'm just gonna eyeball it. We wanna get about 12 danishes from this recipe. So what I'm gonna do is cut it 3 times this way and then 2 times the long way. And they don't have to be perfect. 1, 2, 3. And now we're gonna go long ways twice. 1, 2. All right, as you can see, this is not precise at all. That's okay. All right, now that we have the dough all rolled out and cut, we're gonna start assembling these Danish. The first thing we're gonna do is score the top of these, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. What we wanna do is create a space to put our filling. So we're gonna score the top, but you don't wanna go all the way down through the Danish, just most of the way. So I'd say about 3/4 of the way through this dough. And this is just so that we create a place for that filling. Like I said, it's gonna allow the outside to puff up and then the inside is gonna stay flatter. Now I'm going to prick it here with this fork. Again, that's gonna keep it from puffing up too much and let the filling have a nice little place to rest without getting pushed out. All right, so we have that done. Now I'm gonna brush it with an egg wash. This is just 1 egg and about a tablespoon of water. Just do the outside here like this. This is gonna make it nice and golden brown. Now we're gonna do about a tablespoon of our cream cheese filling. We're just gonna spread it out. Try and keep it inside that rectangle that we cut out. Obviously it's not gonna be perfect, but close enough. Now again, about a tablespoon of our pumpkin filling. All right, that's all we have to do to assemble our Danish. Now we're just gonna finish the rest of them. We'll place them on a baking tray and bake at 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown. Our pastries are out of the oven and cooling, so while that's happening, we're gonna make a quick cream cheese maple drizzle. Now, I don't really have a recipe for this. I'm just gonna do it by taste, but I'm gonna start by taking a little bit of softened cream cheese, maybe about 1/3 of a block here. And we're just gonna put it in this jar. Then I'm gonna add in some pure maple syrup, maybe about 1/4 of a cup. And I'm gonna use my immersion blender to just whisk this all up. Now I'm gonna add in a little bit of milk to make it more of a drizzle consistency. And again, I'm just gonna eyeball it. All right, I'm just gonna taste it to make sure it's okay. The consistency looks good, nice and drizzly. Perfect. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for, let's give these a try. The layers in here are absolutely beautiful. Look at those. That lamination's beautiful. And it's nice and crispy at the bottom. All right, let's try it. Now that I've made a mess. Those are so good. Number 1, you would never know it's refined sugar free. Number 2, that pastry dough is so on point. It's buttery, it's flaky, it's got like a little bit of crisp on the bottom. I'm gonna make a little pig out of myself and I'm gonna eat this whole thing. It's so good. And this time of year, pumpkin and cream cheese is such a good combination. You can't go wrong. You've got to try these at home.